So this is our most popular compressor. It's a really nice compact design. It's really good value for money. Hello, this is BJ from Hearns Hobbies, and I'm going to be talking about the Iwata 2Spray air compressors. Now, I have talked about these before in a previous compressor tutorial, but I thought I'd get further into the different benefits and features of these particular models. Now, these are our most popular models. We quite commonly affectionately know them as the toaster. So if you came in here anytime and said to the guys, oh, I'm looking for an Iwata toaster, well, this is what they're going to bring you. Because, why is that? Because it looks like a toaster. So they're available in two colors. You've got the purple variety, or there's the white. So if you're talking about you need something that matches your decor, or there's a preference in color, well, there's a choice of two. Okay, so let's have a closer look at what you're going to get inside the box. So you've got your main compressor unit, which you've got here, so the main body. It gives you a good length of braided hose, and it's got 1/8 inch connections on both sides, so it makes it easy to connect up to any Iwata airbrush or that style of thread, which is quite common. The power cable, of course, so you can plug it into the wall. And then you've got this packet of holders for the airbrush. So there's two different shapes. They just plug into here, and you use that for supporting your airbrush as you go. So with this one, let's have a closer look at what's on it. So looking at the face, so you've got your on-off switch, obviously. So once you've got it all plugged in, that just switches it on and off. This here is the air output. So this is where your hose will be connected to, and they'll connect up to your airbrush. This one here is your pressure adjustment. So this is a bleed valve type. So as you close it off, what it's doing is actually allowing the excess to come out the side. Now that's important for a couple of reasons. So one of them is so that the compressor motor itself doesn't overwork, because it's always putting it the air out at full pressure. The other thing too is it allows it to be quite smooth with the delivery of the air. Now, you won't see inside, but this has actually got what you call an equalising tube in it. So like some compressors, will come with a holding tank. It's got, instead of a tank, it's got a tube. So it's not going to hold much air, but I'll fire it up and I'll show you what it's like in a moment. The whole purpose of it is, as the compressor is moving, the air is actually coming out at very fine pulsated amounts. So with the pulsating, it's not really going to affect the spray pattern, but if you're using it for a long time, the pulsating can actually start building up paint on the nozzle. And then after you're spraying for a few hours and you don't know, it'll pop off and you end up with this splatter on your work. So that's something you don't really want. The equalising tube, as the air is pumped from the compressor motor, goes through the equalising tube. The tube is a different diameter. So what it does is it equalises the pressure within there, and when the air comes out of this point here, it's pretty much linear, so you don't have any of that pulsating. So that's one of the advantages. Then here you have a little dial that shows you the pressure that you're operating at. That's very handy. So quite often you'll see on tutorials, people will say operate around 15, 20 psi. You easily check with that. All right, so from this end, you can see there's the air intake. And then this point here, that's quite important. So this is a release valve. Now this is the same sort of valve which you find on a compressor holding tank. The idea behind this is actually connected onto the equalising tubes I just talked about. What happens is, after you stop using, that tube will probably have collected some condensation. Now if you don't get rid of the condensation, it'll create a little pool of water and it'll start rusting. So after each use, you just undo it, like so. So you see how it's spring loaded. You don't have to take it out all the way. You'll notice that it's got a slot there. So you just have to undo it to the point of the slot so that air can actually go inside there and then let it breathe and the water can evaporate. So just got to remember that you undo it each time you use it, and then you tighten it up just before you use it. Okay, and then of course you've got the point where you plug in your power. Okay, so let's just hook it all up and I'll show you how it all works. Okay, so let's just use this cable here. So I've got one here, plug it in the back. All right, so that's in there. Next thing is we'll screw up the hose. Just make sure that's nicely tight. All right, and we'll just undo this. So that's all unwound. So you get your little holders. Let's pop those out of the bag. So you see what I mean by there's two different shapes. So this one here is designed so it can accept a gravity feed, which has got the cap on the top. Also a suction feed, where it sits on the bottom. And this particular one is designed for a side feed cup. So you use whichever one suits your airbrush. And these can just pop in here, like that. Okay, and then of course, you've got the airbrush. So we've got one of our signature airbrushes there. That's our classic, which we quite often use for our tutorials. Now the end is just there. All right, so we just tighten this up. You see how this just sits in here. And that's ready to roll. So I'll face this back to you, just so you can see. I'm going to switch it on now. So just click it on, off it goes. Now you see the pressure going up. So it's going up very quickly because I'm not drawing any air yet. It's going to get to a particular point, and there it is, it's switched off. So basically it's at a point where the equalizing tank is full. And then as soon as we start using the airbrush, so if I just press this down, it'll start going again. So that's another advantage, it's got an auto on off. Okay, so as I'm using it, so this is using the air that was in the equalizing tube, and now you see it's switched on again. And then if I let it go, auto off. Now let's just see what the pressure's set at. So by using this, so that's showing you what pressure is operating at the moment. And I can't actually see because of the angle. Let me just hook around here. So that was operating at around about 40 psi, which is probably higher than we want. So as I switch this on again, let's turn this down. All right, so we'll turn it down to around so you see that's just below 20, so that's around about 18 psi. That's probably a good point to use it. No, actually, it's probably a bit soft now. Actually, let's just turn it up a bit. Okay, so the gauge on this one is feeling a bit different to what I would normally call that particular PSI. So feeling it now, probably around about the 40 PSI, is a good point to have it. Then of course you can hear this, it's actually, you're hearing the leakage coming out of the bleed valve. So this is going to continue running until you switch it off. So if you're using a lesser pressure, it's not going to auto cut off because the tank is, or the tube is never getting full. But if you had this on closed, it'll do the auto cut off. And then that's at a high pressure. So your options would be, if you like the auto cut off feature that you can work all the time, to actually operate at a higher pressure, which isn't a problem. It just means you need to operate or use it at a slightly different way so that you don't get splattering. Feels pretty good actually. But you can tone this down a bit. Like so. Only thing is because it's bleeding, it's not going to auto cut off. Like so. Yep. What am I doing here? There we go. So yeah, so there's a moment where it was in that halfway house, wasn't switching off properly. So there you go. So this is our most popular compressor. So as you can see, it's a really nice compact design. It's really good value for money. Comes with all the accessories you need apart from your airbrush to get it going. It's got the auto cut off feature if you have it running at full pressure. If you want to cut it down, then you'll need to switch it manually on and off as you operate. And then it's got that equalising tank, which is another plus. So all in all, it's a really, really good compressor. So again, it's the Iwata 2Spray compressor, which we call the toaster. And it's a really great starting type of compressor.